Advertising Council Australia would like to begin by acknowledging and paying our respects to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast today. ACA would also like to acknowledge their culture of storytelling through art, dance and music, and we pay respect to the elders past, present and future on other lands throughout all communities who might be participating today.
Well, good morning, everybody. And thank you very much for joining the Effie How-To Guide for 2023. I'm joined today by Fran Clayton, who you just saw, who's the CSO of DDB, but is also on ACA's CSO Steerco and the ACA board. Welcome, Fran.
Thanks for having me. Hi.
We've got Martin Rippon, many of you will know as a partner of Gutling and Partners, but more importantly, has been a very long time Effie entrant and Effie judge, and has this year been the driving force behind our Effie review. So very happy to have you here, Martin.
Good to be here. Always enjoy it.
And last but not least is Lindsay Davies. She's very new to the Effies, but has been helping us out at ACA and is running the whole award program this year. So I'm sure all of you will get to know Lindsay by the end of this year anyway. So welcome, Lindsay. Great to have you.
Thanks, Tony.
Okay, a couple of quick things today before we get started. Firstly, today is being recorded. It will be loaded up onto the website. So if anybody missed today or you've got other people that you think would like to see it, by all means, point them to the website once it's loaded up, which will probably be by the end of this week. The second thing is that you'll see a Q&A button down the bottom. If you've got any questions throughout today, put them in the Q&A and we'll get to them at the end. If we can't answer them today, we'll get back to you. Please use the Q&A rather than the chat button because it's easier for us to process that. I'm sure you'll be pleased to know that I won't be speaking for long, but what I thought might be of value for those that are new to the Effies is just to do a little bit of background on the Effie program. So if you start moving the slides, the Australian Effie Awards do honour Australia's most significant achievements in marketing communications, and it's all about ideas that work and contribute to not just a brand success, but also the knowledge of the industry. And we have found that for many years. Australia has got a very good and strong history in the Effie program going back to 1990. We actually were the first country, as far as I know, if you just move to the next slide, we were the first country that I know. We launched the AFA Effectiveness Awards back in 1990, which were modelled on the IPA Awards in the UK. And there are, as you can see, 9 volumes of effectiveness case histories all the way through the 90s into the noughties. In 2009, we relaunched under the Effie brand because that was gaining traction globally, and it made a lot more sense to be part of something bigger. So over the years, you can see that some of Australia's best both creative and effectiveness campaigns have actually won. Lean Beef, Wheat Bix, Han Premium Light, The Dancing, Butchers, Virgin Mobile, going back into the 90s. And over the page, we go to No One Thinks Big of You, Car Creation from an NRMA, and even Operation Boomerang and Over Beer. And more recently, our last 3 or 4, we've had great campaigns with CUB in 2019, Aldi in 2020, NRMA with 2021, and last year, of course, the Uber Eats with Tonight I'll Be Eating. So the big question now is, will you be the next grand Effie winner in 2023? We started in 2019 as a compulsory part of the entry to develop an effectiveness database. We've now got 380 cases in that database. We're the only other country apart from the UK that has got a sophisticated database like that. And it's because of that we're able to publish reports like the ones you can see on the screen. To ESOV and Beyond was a hugely popular one in 2021. And only last week we launched Attention and Effectiveness, which once again will be seen as globally significant, is being picked up by WARC. It's being picked up all around the world. So it's great to be able to be part of that. We also have on our website an Effie case history database. It now includes all the 2022 winners, but there's 14 years of winning entries there. So if anybody wants to go on there, members can download the case histories for free of charge. Non-members have to pay a small amount if they want to access them. But I think at the end of every year, we have a pretty significant Effie review. Last year was the biggest that we've had. We put out a Survey Monkey that was completed by 61 people from agencies and 23 clients. That gave us great data to be able to share with the Effie Review Committee. We had 2 or 3 reviews. There were 16 people that contributed to that review across our community. I'd like to single out a couple. Jenny Dill and Yash Gandhi were terrific from the AANA to give a client's perspective. Al Crawford and Colin Wilson-Brown, neither of whom are here today, have been very much part of the working group. And of course, we've had Fran, Martin and Lindsay who's speaking today. And have incorporated the learnings into the 2023 review. And you'll see that there's quite a few changes that we've built into this year's campaign. I'd also like to acknowledge Kim Portrait and Think TV at this stage. Without them as a fantastic marquee sponsor, a lot of the stuff that we do wouldn't be possible, particularly the report writing with Rob Britton, Peter Field, and more recently, Karen Nelson-Field. Also, as Effective Agency of the Year, the Monkeys have developed a new campaign for 2023. You'll see that here. I think the key thing is, the background is, in a world where every dollar is scrutinised, there is no more important time to demonstrate effectiveness. The insight is, if you can demonstrate the long-term effectiveness of your marketing budget, then you've demonstrated your worth to the business. And the idea is, in this industry, awards can do wonders for your career. And once business leaders see that your advertising is having a positive impact on the bottom line, you can pretty well ask for anything. So Effie winners can ask for anything is the theme for this year. We've got a couple of ads and campaigns the executions that we've already got up there. But there will be an opportunity for you all to be involved, as we'll have social tiles where you can deliver, hopefully, what you're going to ask for and have a bit of fun and create a bit of momentum around that. So what we're going to do today, Fran is going to be talking about planning for effectiveness. Martin is going to be talking about what's new, both from an entrant and a judge's point of view. And Lindsay will be talking about the new way to enter. Then we'll have a Q&A. But before we start, we're just going to publish a very quick poll that I think will come up here, just to see how many in the audience have a sophisticated or a fairly new to the Effie. So if you could all please choose, have you been involved in the Effie entries in the last 5 years? If you could either pick yes or no, that'd be great. And I'll allow a couple of minutes just for the poll to populate. And I will ask that as soon as we have enough people, we sort of we publish the results of the poll, which you will see any moment now. And there you go. So we've got about a third that have been involved in an Effie award entry in the last 2 years and 2/3 that haven't. That's really good to know. So thank you, everybody, for being part of today. I'm now going to close the poll and hand over to Fran.
Thanks, Tony. That was actually a great segue. It's great to see a big portion of people on the call who are new to the Effies, because that is absolutely a big objective that we have off the back of the research that Tony mentioned last year. We discovered that the Effies, like many brands, has a strength which is also a challenge, and that is that it's seen as highly credible. Effies globally, and particularly the Australian Effies, is it's seen as highly credible. To win an Effie is seen to be extremely valuable by both clients and agencies. But on the other side of that coin, the biggest barrier to entry is people talking about how difficult it is in terms of time, resource, effort, data, etc. And if you've been involved before, you probably know that. And if you are new to the Effies, you might have even heard sort of whispers about how tough it is to win. And so, we absolutely want to maintain the high standards and the credibility of the Effies. But at the same time, like all good brands, we need to bring new people in. We can't just rely on a core group of super users. And for that reason, we have undergone a bit of a review to look at reducing some of those barriers around, participating in this excellent program. So we'll get into the detail of some of that in a minute, but really the key points here are simplifying the entry process itself. Also looking at some new categories, which we'll go through, a couple in the industry categories. So we'll look at food, beverage, restaurant, and food delivery. Then we've looked at making sure that we're including smaller campaigns, smaller clients, smaller budgets, and incentivizing that as well through pricing that recognizes those budgets. And then making sure that the Effies isn't just an awards program that's for big brands and big agencies, that we're really spreading the word and reducing barriers so that any agency, any marketer, any brand can participate if the data is there. On the next page, and Tony's kind of mentioned this in terms of the campaign that the Monkeys developed based on that insight that, based on the current economic environment in Australia and all over the world, effectiveness matters now more than ever. And we heard this, we worked with a number of client-side marketers who really reflected this truth that when it comes to defending marketing budget and opening up, more marketing budget, the Effies is the awards show that really supports that need. I was actually just reading a couple of days ago a report from Contagious. I think it's called the Radar Report. They surveyed a couple of hundred kind of global C-suite marketers to understand how they're feeling about the current economic environment when it comes to their roles. And there was a great quote from Rob Riley, who's the Chief Creative Officer of WPP, who said, it's really easy to be great, creatively. And when it comes to creative marketing, it's easy to be great when times are good. It's much harder to be innovative when times are tough. But that's actually when we need it the most. Creativity and innovation in these economic times are essential ingredients, and to prove the impact of that is incredibly important for marketers. So this is the year, if it's the first year that you're participating or the 10th, this is the year and the coming years that effectiveness matters more than ever. On that note, I'll pass over to Martin, who will go through some of the details of the changes that we've made to evolve the program.
Thank you very much, Fran. So I'll give you the good news and the bad news. The Good news is you've actually got 2.5 months to get your entry in. So that's quite a bit of time. The bad news is you've got to answer those two very important questions. And I remember having been a client-side marketer, when the CEO asks, has the campaign been successful then? And you need to have a very clear and convincing answer in 10 words for that. And then the chief financial officer, she'll ask you, so how much did we spend on it? Did we get a return? And you need to have a good answer for that. So those are the two kind of core questions at the heart of the Effies. Now, the good news is in the 2023 entry guide, you get a lot of detail about how to put together a great winning entry, and make sure that you use those 2.5 months wisely. And whether you're a client-side marketer or whether you're working in an agency, in a planning or account management, make sure you plan to get all the information you need up front. What we've tried to do, and Lindsay will go through some of these things a little bit later on, is make actually putting the data into the machine a lot simpler and a lot easier. So you're not going to be spending huge amounts of time formatting the entry at the end, but you do need to spend the time making sure you've got all the data you need and making sure you can tell a really clear story that the judges will be able to understand and go to. So a few changes in terms of categories. So this is the industry categories. So this is where we group the different entrants, and you'll see the ones in red. We used to have a food category and a beverage category, and we've actually put food and beverage together, but we've taken out the restaurants and food delivery categories because there's a lot of action happening, obviously, with Uber Eats and Menulog and Kentucky Fried and McDonald's. So a lot of action there, and hopefully you'll read their case studies and you'll probably be using their services late into the night trying to put the final touches to the award. The other piece down at the bottom there, you'll see not-for-profit organizations. That was originally just talking around charities, but we're also including benevolent societies and foundations in that as well. So if you've got a case study that is for one of those types of organizations, that's the category that goes into. We then have our List B specialist categories. Hopefully you can read that. And again, a couple of changes in there, but I'll just run through them. So there are 5 categories where you've got, if you just go back, thanks, very specific challenges. So it might be a new product, you might be a challenger brand, you might have a small budget, it might be about positive change in the environmental space. And the new one we've added in there is just for campaigns where social media is the lead media, and I'll talk to the definition on that. There are the metrics campaigns, which are all about return on investment, short-term effects, long-term effects, and brand value, which are much more kind of numeric. And then we've got the innovation categories. So most original thinking, insight and strategic thinking, innovative media or channel solutions, and then 2 new categories. One is about innovative marketing solutions other than advertising, where advertising plays a sort of support role, and CX as well. So if we just move on to those definitions. So social media first. This is where campaigns where the role of social media is clear in delivering business results. So social media has to be the lead channel. It needs to have the lion's share of the budget or be the most prominent role in the campaign. But at the same time, we need to demonstrate effectiveness and financial return. CX. So this is about celebrating activities which prove the direct impact of customer experience in delivering business results. So it needs to demonstrate what those solutions are and how they've actually changed the business. And I think one of the key challenges on a CX program is you need to be quite clear about any additional costs of implementing that CX campaign over and above the actual work of the agency itself. Innovative marketing solutions. So for all the client marketers out there or the agencies that have come up with brilliant ideas that weren't advertising once you've been on the factory tour or whatever it might have been, it's about celebrating innovative and effective marketing solutions where advertising or communications hasn't been the key factor in driving effectiveness results. So it could be a pivot into an innovative product or packaging, a different way of doing things at point of sale, different distribution channels, an app that you've built, or line extension. So it's things where, yes, maybe there was some advertising support, but actually the real change came from the innovation in the product packaging, etc. For those of you who've not been to the Effies and the award night, there are 5 special awards, and one of those is a new award. So Tony's already talked about the Grand Effie, which is the overall most effective campaign as voted by the judges. The Effective Agency of the Year, which is the agency that has made the most, got the most points in the Effie Awards. The Effective Advertiser of the Year, and then a smaller state award, which is really to try and encourage those people from outside of Sydney and Melbourne, even though actually a lot of the states are bigger than New South Wales and Victoria if you look at them as a landmass. Apologies to my friends from elsewhere, but really trying to make sure that we do have and encourage people from those smaller states where maybe the budgets aren't as great to enter into the Effies and to be acknowledged in that space. The new award is the Chairman's Award, which is really something which is going to be decided by the chair of the Effies jury to the entry that captures his or her imagination. So it'll be selected from the silver and bronze Effie winners, and it's really just trying to make sure that all the work, even if sometimes the budget wasn't there to make it an absolute gold winner, that if we've seen something that's really interesting that adds to the overall knowledge in the marketplace, or was just a bold strategy, that gets acknowledged as well. So there are 5 special awards. So what do judges look for? Well, I've just captured this as a pretty corny acronym of CRX. It's about clarity. It's about robust thinking backed up by robust data. And it's about an X factor, looking for results that have outperformed expectations, or a new way of thinking, or some remarkable creative work, or maybe it's some new way of analyzing data that's actually going to add to the overall understanding of what marketing and how advertising works. So I think it's really important that when you're putting your entry together, you find a way to write a short story. And that's what's going to go into the executive summary. So the executive summary is 300 words at the front, 1 graph that really just captures the essence of what that story is. So that's the story that you would say to the CEO when he walks up to you in the lift and says, how's the campaign going? The second part is about robust thinking backed up by robust data. And that's really the detailed answers to the questions. So making sure that with all of those questions, there is robust thinking and not just woolly charts that the judges have to sit and go, what's that actually saying? Oh, they've changed the axis on that one. There's another line going over there. Just make it really robust, really clear. And there's lots of details again in the how to enter guide, and in the entry forms itself, there's a little click down where you can see all of that information. And then the X factor, as I said, it's really looking for something that just takes this beyond the other cases and raises it up. So that's what we're looking for as judges. The judging process, I have to say, is incredibly rigorous. And that is, I think, one of the great things about the Effie Awards. So it's judged by marketers, senior marketers, it's judged by senior advertising people and ex-advertising people. And really, we do get in and we interrogate the data in those final stages to make sure that it really is a case worthy of winning gold. In detail, the executive summary, we've put an absolute strict 300-word limit on that. So the old adage is, I didn't have time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one. Well, we are giving you 2.5 months to write that 300-word executive summary. In terms of the rest of the questions, so there are 9 questions that you need to complete, and we think about 3,000 words is the ideal length for the paper, but we haven't put a limit on the word count this time. And it may be with some of the case studies that are going into the long-term effects or the brand value, you may need to go a bit longer, but that's really just to give you a sense of how much attention span the judges have when you're writing your story. The scoring, there's been a few tweaks for those of you who've been before. Basically, each question gets allocated marks, and we've just changed the weighting a little bit so that in the insight and strategic thinking category, there are more marks for what was your strategy. And in the ROI category, there's more marks for was the campaign a good investment? And that's across the different categories. But all of those numbers will be clear on the entry forms when you're writing the words in. So that is a quick overview of what we're trying to achieve in terms of just its newness, its tweaks. It's trying to move the Effies along. The platform you get to put them into is the same platform as used before, but Lindsay now is just going to talk to some of the innovations that we've put into that platform. So over to you, Lindsay.
Thanks so much, Martin. So I just want to take you through very quickly on how to enter and what's changed. So it's now a purely digital entry form. You register online at effies.awardsplatform.com, fill in all of your details, and you will, if you have had an account from previous years, that account will still be valid for this year, and you should be then able to get into your entry forms. Once you're in, the first page is everything that you need to know. You'll be able to download the entry guide from this page. It talks to the eligibility period that the campaigns can run in Australia. So it's between the 1st of April 2021 and the 31st of May 2023. The on-time entries close on the 1st of June, and there's an extended deadline of the 15th of June. So like we've mentioned, we've got lots and lots of time to prepare your entries, so it's worth starting now. So at the bottom of there, you can see there's a start entry button. Once you press that, you'll go through to an entry form where you can select your categories. So a few people have asked where you get your downloaded blank entry. When you get to that page and you've selected your category, at the bottom you can see the red PDF symbol for downloading that particular blank entry. If you're entering multiple categories, you just need to do that a few times as you start your entries, and you'll be able to manage all your entries within the portal. You can see that there's a 5-step process all along the top, and this is the purely digital entry form that you're going to go through. So once you get into the entry, the first part is a 300-word executive summary that the team have talked about so far. What we recommend is that you create all your entries in a Word document and copy and paste the content into each question. Once you paste it, you will need to format it. You can see there's bold, italics, quotation marks, etc. at the top. Make sure that you format it so it's really easy for the judges. Now, this is the only question that has a word limit on it. We do recommend 3,000 words for the papers, but the individual questions haven't been capped for your ease of writing the entry. And we really want you to have a simple way to enter and reduce the time for formatting. This process is actually quite easy to do. So with the executive summary, you also can upload an image in there. We recommend that it's the JPEG. When you upload a JPEG image, what it means that the judges will be able to see it in really easily in the entry form. And then for each question on the right-hand side, there's information you need to know for that question. Then once you go through to the remainder of the questions on the entry form, clarity is really key for the judges. So as you're adding in your charts, these will be uploaded as images. And you can see here what I've done is made a reference to see chart number 1. And then what you'll need to do is save your chart and upload that chart as a single image underneath each question, relating to each question. So use the bold, make the headlines super clear, add in your chart names, label your images for upload as well. Then you go through to the next stage, which is uploading creative. You can simply drag and drop your files in here, or you can upload them. You can upload videos and stills, and this is all the creative that you need to be able to show the judges that what your campaign is about and what it's saying and what it's doing, so they really get a visual from this. When the judges are looking at this, this will appear right at the top of your entry form next to your executive summary. As you go through, there is a every year a mandatory survey to complete, which we use for research purposes to analyse patterns and trends in effectiveness. This is really important that you complete this. There are a few questions. It will be needed completed by someone who will understand all the questions. So just have a quick look through that as you're starting your entry, and make sure that you've got the right person available to answer all those questions for you. And then at the end, there is the credits tab. So this is all about uploading people who've contributed to your campaigns. And you will add those as individual contributors. You can see at the bottom, there's a little button, add contributor. What we also ask is for people to provide a redacted PDF, removing any sensitive information such as data, so that when you become a winner, when we publish the results, we've got all the right information that you want to share, and the information that is sensitive is then subsequently removed from that. We have talked about new fees, so we really wanted to open up the opportunities for marketing effectiveness for everyone. So we have a new first entry and new entrance fees. So it's a 30% reduction on one case study where neither client nor agency has entered in the past 3 years, from 2020 through to 2022. So that's reducing from 975 to 682, for example, in one of the tiers. And we've also got a reduced fee for small budget campaigns when the media and production budget was under 500K as well. So opening up for lots of different people and brands to enter. And before I hand over for a Q&A, just want to say, as you're going through the process, and if you have any questions whatsoever, you can call me, you can email me. I'm here to help you work through this process and getting your entry up on time and helping you through the process. But it is very, very simple, and I am here to help. So if everyone wants to come on, and Tony is going to take us through any questions.
Thanks, Lindsay. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to ask them as you get them. I'll just say a couple of ones. We've got one question already that says, to confirm, the reduced entry fee is for where the agency and client haven't entered before, or an agency that has but a new client. It's really for people that haven't entered before. If you've got a sophisticated agency that are entering on behalf of a new client, that doesn't really count. It's really for people that haven't entered before. Can one entry apply for more than one category? And the answer is yes. The way that the Effies are structured is list A is about industries. So there is one category for every entry in list A. There's only one industry that you can, but you can enter up to 4 different categories in list B. Now, it's interesting to see how people write it. Sometimes they might write specifically for a list B, could be brand valuation, for example, and then also added into list A, or it could be a new product launch for automotive, that you enter in automotive and then look for list B. But there's one in list A, and there is up to 4 in list B. Can you confirm that no Jumpstart or mentorship program this year for first-time entrants? We don't have one specifically. We eliminated 2 categories this year, which was eliminating COVID, or outsmarting COVID, I think it was, in Jumpstart. But if anybody out there wants help, we will find help. We will find a mentor. We will can run through the Jumpstart program. We've already had 1 or 2 people do this. So we'll certainly find it. We've got, for any clients out there that don't feel as if they've got the ability to write the case themselves or want to contract some people, we've got a list of people that they can consult that can help write it. Does a case have to enter in list A or could only be in list B? We would encourage them to be in list A, but no, you don't have to. You can go straight to list B. But generally what we find is there is an effort involved in writing and entering a case, and generally people want to look for multiple, sometimes as many cases that they can. Interestingly, I was talking to Fran yesterday. Over the many years we've been talking about the Effies, never once has there been a complaint about the price of entry. Some Effie programs around the world are all more expensive to us. So I think that there is a fair bit of effort required to write a case, enter a case. By all means, look for the categories that you think could work. So they're the questions that we've got at the moment. I don't have any more questions that we can answer unless Fran and Martin, have you got any builds on what I've said or?
None from me. I think it sounds pretty clear, but yeah, great to see some newbies. So don't hesitate to put your hand up.
And I think particularly for the newbies, there is a lot of really good detail about how to answer questions, how to prepare your entry in the entry guide. So I would look at that. And for those who've entered before, it's probably still worth having another look at that as well, because it's really good information in there.
And there are some standard tips, aren't they, Martin? Like for the new ones, start early. Don't leave it to the last month. You just won't get it up. So start early, and not only start early, involve your client early, because you get a much better case if they're involved in helping you find the data that you need. Tell a story and really read some case histories that have been done before. A couple more questions have come through. I'll point this one through to Martin. Do judges take into account other relevant awards won by a campaign entry as part of the judging process?
Absolutely not. And we get very annoyed if a case says this has already won somewhere else. No, this is about effectiveness, and that's what we absolutely look at. Does the data back up the fact that this has been a good investment and a successful campaign?
I might pass this one over to both Martin and Fran too. Are there any common mistakes that entries make?
My most common bugbear is too much puffery. So where basically as a judge, you spend most of your time trying to work out what the actual story is in terms of, has it been effective or not? So you get lots of charts, and it's almost like someone just thrown all the data at it and left it for the judges to decide which is the bit that proves it's successful. So keep the story nice and clean.
That's right. I think I would add a similar bit of advice. Great strategic writing is, reductive. It, gets to the point. Brevity, clarity are appreciated, particularly when we think about how many people are judging these papers in amongst everything else that they've got going on. So, really sharpen the story.
Yeah, and while you two are there, the perennial question comes up, and you'll both have an opinion on this one. Is ROI, as described by Effies Australia, still the best measure of success? Profitability is not controllable by advertising.
So I think two points on that. There are two questions. How do you know your campaign was successful? So it's very important that it's clear that it has moved the dials on whatever the goals were. And then the second question is, was the campaign a good investment? So a good investment doesn't necessarily have to lead to profit in some categories, but I don't know that many businesses, having worked on the client side for a lot of my time, that invest in campaigns that don't in some way contribute to profitability. So I think it's still a very, very important part of why people will invest in advertising.
Is the first entrant discount for one award category? Yes, just one award category. So the discount goes to one award category and the others are at the general the general level. How does one get involved in judging the Effies? Well, that's a great question. If you're a member agency, shoot a note to Lindsay. If you're from a member agency, if you're an independent, either a client or an independent person, shoot a note to Lindsay as well. We get lots of applications every year and we sort them through. Round 1 tends to be our members and round 2 tends to be independent. And in round 2, you have team chairs that then go into a round 3. Somebody has asked, where does the entry money go? And the entry money goes to Ad Council. Ad Council is a not-for-profit organisation. And the way that the Effies work is we have to pay the Effie US a license fee. We have to put on the judging, the show, and then we also contribute money into effectiveness programs throughout Australia and publishing and that sort of stuff. So all the money goes back to the industry eventually. And what type of brands fall into A05 health and wellness? Is there a definition? I think the answer is yes, Lindsay, in the entry guide.
Yes, it's in the entry guide and it's also at the start of each form as well as you do drop down the category.
And I think we're just about done. So I can't see any more questions. Is there an option to receive feedback on submissions? And the answer is yes. Yes, whether you're one or not, you can actually go back in all the judges' comments, and comments are compulsory for judging. All the judges' comments are loaded into the website, and any entrant can go back and see what the judges have said. So any final words from Fran or Martin? No?
Okay, I'll leave one final word, that for all of those people who are setting out to write their first paper or maybe their second or third, writing an Effie makes you better at your job, makes you a better marketer. So of course there's value in winning, there's value for the client in winning, but there's value in the process itself.
Yeah, I'd completely agree with that. Not every start of an Effie entry results in an Effie entry, but sometimes what it does highlight is, oh, I just don't have the data to be able to write it. I don't really have the data to be able to judge the effectiveness of the campaign. And even if you do that and decide to change the way that you're collecting the data or put in measurements that are critical, that's a big win. So not every journey results in an entry, not every entry results in an award, but I would encourage every campaign to do it. It's well worth the effort. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Lindsay, Fran and Martin, for being such champions and helping out with this. This will be loaded onto the website. Start early, involve your client, download the guide, and good luck.